George Hudson. Got my guy Robbie with me. It's 11:11
What's
on
up,
the East
guys?
Coast. How's it going this morning? We got a great episode as always. Episode 40. We're getting up there, Robbie.
0, man. I'm excited about
Mm-hmm.
that, man. We're almost a year deep in this whole thing. Still learning, still growing, still grooving, and just watching some amazing stuff happen, man.
Mm-hmm.
So today, the genesis of right now is this. There are a lot of things that we propose that we're going to do, that we say we're going to accomplish in our lives, that we tell people that this is what we're all about. We start mind mapping and all this kind of stuff to get us moving, what we hope in a particular uh, action, a particular direction. And for whatever reason, whether we're making excuses or not, it doesn't get done. So, right now, what are you always waiting for? Right now, just so you know, procrastination is the murderer of every great invention unknown, every great person unheard, every Nobel Prize never won, every launch of greatness never realized. Procrastination destroyed it, murdered it. Unrealized potential, broken promises, broken dreams. Where's your urgency? Where's your esteem? Where's your gumption? Where's your drive? Where's the God of creation to power your dreams into vision, vision into planning, planning into doing and enjoying your lives every moment that you have? Or where has your courage gone? Or where can it be? Oh, where has my courage gone?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where can it be? Man, understand, when I was coming up playing ball, on every team, we recognized that there were some scrubs. That's what we called them. We called them scrubs. They didn't want to win as much as they wanted to be in a uniform. They didn't want to work as hard as much as they wanted to be in the association. They didn't want to drive as much as they wanted to get the letter, just to say they were a letter man. They didn't play. They practiced just a little, but around in terms of getting in, they really wasn't concerned about that. Shalom, everybody that's watching. They weren't really concerned about that. The biggest thing that they were concerned about was their opinion, their letter, and just being in an association. They didn't have the urgency. So today we're talking about urgency, because there's an urgent cry in the spirit of many men and women right now, today, right now. And that cry is, it's time to do. It's time to actualize. It's time to take our dreams and our visions off the shelf and put them down on the tape and do
Mm-hmm.
something. George, talk to me, man. Where
Yeah,
you at on
no one's really gonna do it for you. Um, and you just have to constantly ask yourself, what is getting in the way of me not taking action? Or what is getting in the way of me not meeting the right people? Or what is getting in the way of me always seeing the negative side of things, always telling myself it's not going to work, always just not taking action? Like, being neutral is negative to me because it doesn't do anything for you. Like, if you have a neutral mindset towards something, if you're indifferent, um, you're never able to really use that as fuel to go out and achieve whatever it is that you're, going to do, whether it's learning a new skill. There is no perfect time for that. Um, you know, getting in the way of what you're going after. There's different things that do that, in my opinion, and you really have to question and analyze what it that is, right? Is it emotional? Is it physical? Is it psychosocial? Is it, all these other things? Robbie and I met at this event last year called Peak Partnership, and they actually had the first day of it yesterday down in Orlando. And there was this woman that spoke, and she talked about the ACE assessment. Basically, it's a series of 10 questions that if you answer yes or no to, every yes is a point, every no is zero. So, and it all highlights what happened to you before your 18th birthday, right?
Wow.
Did these circumstances take place in the home? Was mom and dad, were they together? Did divorce take place? Was someone constantly kind of physically attacked in some sort of way? Like when conflict occurred, what happened in the family? Did you ever feel threatened? All these other things. And then because they kind of stumbled upon this quiz. They were doing a study on weight loss, and this
Mm-hmm.
doctor was working with all these patients, and they would lose like 50 pounds, and they were all fairly obese. They would all lose 50 or 100 or whatever it might be. And then he noticed there were specific people that would just put it back on. And why that happened? Like, why do people place these constant obstacles right back in their path? When they see the light, they see success, they see that, but they can just spiral back to baseline level, right? I think I'd like to speak for everyone and say we all have like times in our life where we are on the uprising, we're on the upswing, we're doing these things, and then we kind of find, we go to this event and we get all this energy, or we go to this retreat and we have all these inspirational ideas, and we think about starting a business, but we go back to our life, and then it's just like back to baseline, and the default programming takes over, and then we just wake up, we go to the next retreat and it's like, why haven't I done anything since the last time? Like, I was
Urgency.
so fired up, and I had the urgency, but where did I lose it? And what are the obstacles in my way that are doing that? And so the name of the test is called the ACE quiz.
The ACE
And
quiz. And how can
mhm.
they find that test, George? Where we find that test? Have you already found that so we can
Yeah, so
load
if you
that up?
just Google it, plenty of links will come up. The first link I
ACE?
hear is the NPR.
Been
It's
listening.
npr.org. Siri's bumping in there.
You bumped them. What was the name of it again? The link
ACE,
again?
ACE.
Okay.
And then the npr.org. I don't know if
Okay.
that's National Public Radio.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they just noticed a correlation between all these traumas that happen before 18, and people kind of were stuck in them. We can't control the environment that we grow up in, but we can control the environment that's present before we die, right? You can't control your financial situation at birth, but you can control it when you die, those sorts of things.
Before you die
So yeah, before in their adult life,
in adult
right?
life, the process. Yeah.
And for anyone trying to untap, unhinge, unwind, and achieve like the savage will mindset,
To get
has to
unleashed.
address these things. And you have to become aware of them, and you have to learn how to work through it, and how you need to foster social situations, and how you need to be connected, and the relationships you're in. And we were listening to this woman. She's very popular, very famous, has her own talk show. Her name's Emily Ford.
Yeah.
And you know her father left her mother because they had a daughter, and that was her. So from the
Mhm.
moment she was born, and they didn't know she was going to be a girl before she got born. And the moment she was born, like, it was instant rejection that she faced her entire life. Grew up with a single mother, father, in and out, all these other things. And we did the quiz where she was reading out the questions, everything. People were taking notes, and yes, it was very
Can you
deep.
give us a couple of those questions before you finish the segment? Roll.
Yeah, so she was asking us questions like, the first one is, before your 18th birthday, did a parent or other adult in the household very often swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you? And the way to answer the question is yes or no. And then it's or act in a way that made you afraid that you might be physically hurt. So you'd answer yes or no. Yes is 1 point, no is 0. So, and then before your 18th birthday, did a parent or other adult in the household very often push, grab, slap, or throw something at you, or ever hit you so hard that you had marks or were injured? So yes or no, 1 or 0. And then before your 18th birthday, did an adult or person at least 5 years older than you ever touch or fondle, or touch you in a way that was inappropriate, or attempt to have oral, sexual ventures with you? And these questions are deep, but they kind of,
A
so much
lot.
of our how we view the world is through social, sexual, like how are we accepted, how are we loved, how do we find a role in our environment, all these things. And they noticed that in the study where they were trying to help people lose weight, is the people that had answers of, I think it was 4 or above, fell in the category of falling back, gaining the weight again, going back to baseline, that sort of thing. And I think that's just an example of,
I want to jump in on this, man, because
yeah.
something that drove me and my boy, I just went back. You guys know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I was with my partner, my main man, and was in Switzerland, in the Swiss Alps is where he lives. And we were just talking. And one of the things that he told me, and I met him when I was going to junior high school, my first year, I'm going in 7th grade, 6th grade, going into 7th. And he said something to me. He says, Robbie, he says, I don't remember one day you weren't working out 2 to 3 times a day. He said you minimally worked out twice a day, but I remember more 3 times a day. You got up early in the morning, you worked out. You worked out after you went to your practices and you came and got me. And then before you went to bed, you worked out. And there was a reason for that, right? And so coming up at a certain point in my life, there was a lot of negative people in my life. And we grew up in a time where racism was so much more overt than what it is now. And so I think I shared part of this with you guys before. In my junior high school, my junior high school PE teachers, 2 of them kicked me underneath the bench. They were just kicking me, kicking me, kicking me. I was hearing in my life, you're dumb and stupid. You never amount to be anything. You're going to be in prison or you'll be dead before you're 21. So my first big fear was 21. And then my second big fear was 24, because when I made it past 21, everybody said I was going to be dead by 24. Only because I was black and because in their opinion, I was dumb and stupid. And so I used all these things as motivators. And so I became an overachiever in many respects, because I have written on my wall right over here in a frame, it says, prove them wrong. And I spent so much of my life proving them wrong, that I spent so much of my life being in a groove, in a pattern of overachieving. So much so that I didn't recognize a lot of human beings at a social level, where most people enjoy a lot of friendships and other things like that, because I was so driven, because I heard so much of that negativity. So I'm only touching base on part of how that works, and it can work a lot of different ways. But for me, hearing dumb and stupid, and then I said, okay, well, look at my name now in the who's who of high school graduates in my class of graduation. And there's my name graduating in the top 2% of my class, and then going on up.
Nice.
And so I started to use it as a drive. Other people, it drives them into the grave, into their own private grave. And this is why we have savage will. So you can get unleashed, unlocked, unhinged, unpacked from these graves that we created for ourselves. And here's the thing. This is the thing that's most important. We've got to create an urgency. We got to get a right now in our spirit to get out of this grave. It's time for resurrection. I'm a believer. So my Lord and Savior said, I am the resurrection and the life. And so he's the resurrection and the life, because when the light comes on, that I must do something right now. I have to raise up. I've got to get out right now. I've got to respond right now to the urgency. And here's the cool thing about urgency. It has nothing to do with your age. Urgency has to do with your spiritual position. It has to do with your spiritual and your natural resolve about getting things done. By definition, urgency requires swift action, an earnest and persistent quality, insistence. It means right now, Joker. That's what it means. It means right now. Do something about it in your mindset right now. So there's a scarcity component that's connected to this. And that scarcity component, it could be good, but if you let it go bad, it could create a poverty mentality where you always feel that you don't have enough. But in this scarcity component, it's good when it's, if I don't move, I lose. If I don't move, I don't get it done. So in this scarcity side of the equation, it's get it done. It's urgency and scarcity that drives all the marketing machines, all the marketing campaigns all over the planet. It increases your engagement. It increases your ability to convert on a strategy, idea, or whatever it might happen to be. But it's all strategic. Take for example Black Friday. The Adobe Digital Insights alone show that on Black Friday, $9 billion just in 2021, $9 billion was transacted simply because people thought they were going to lose something. So what I'm getting at right here, and what George is hitting on, it's just a tipping point for some
Mm-hmm.
people's lives. You can allow for all the stuff that hurt you, that you buried, that you compartmentalized, and it's allowed for you to be quasi successful. You can allow for these things to continue to beat you up, hold you bound, cause you to carry unnecessary weight, unnecessary hurts. Or you can make up in your mind right now, urgently, I must address this pain. I purchased anxiety. I purchased pain. I compartmentalized them all. And they've been forcing me to act in a way that has not allowed me to fully actualize. And
Yeah.
now you've got to make up in your mind, I'm going to write these things down. For example, take that ACE test and then come to that revolutionary realization that I have got to and will today start my breakout. This is my time to get unhinged. This is my time to get unpacked. This is my time to unwind. This is my time to get unleashed so I can have a savage finish to my life. My will is I will no longer live in the scarcity, the poverty, the hurts, the pains. No longer will I allow these to dominate my life because I've made up in my mind that today is the day for my conversion. Today is the day that I shed the first layer,
Mm-hmm.
the most important layer of this in my life so I can start to move forward.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that was telling was how successful she was. And it's because she was so passionate. And being passionate is one thing, but being driven is the combination there. I think is going to, take you to levels that you might not have the skills right now. You might not. She didn't know anything about business or being famous. Like her family was absolutely broke, and just Google her right now, or if you're listening to this, go ahead and go Google Emily Ford and just the things that she's accomplished. And just seeing that happen every day, and it's like the difference between you and them is they decided that that wasn't going to hold them back. And
Say that one more
you
time.
know
I decided
the
that
different they decided that it wasn't going to hold them back, and they used it as a
put them in
strength.
the first position. I decide that I'm no longer going to let this hold
Yeah.
me back.
And the thing is that she read through all 10 questions, and everyone was like writing them down, yes, no, adding up the points and so forth. And the crazy thing is she said if you had one or above, stand up. Like if your score total to one or more, stand up. And 90% of the room was standing up, if not more. There was a room of 1,000 or 1,500 people. But and then my perspective, I was thinking so many different things, and it's just a tough situation. The questions are very targeted and very deep, and you just see so many people standing up, and then you're like, oh shoot. And then I realized I'm still sitting down, and I'm like, man, I'm so grateful for my situation, and and that sort of thing. And then it brought so much gratitude and brought so much just like wow,
Well, hold on,
reflection
George.
on my life and things like that.
Hold on, brother. Because I remember when you and I was talking, and not, without going into any detail, I remember there was a moment, however long it lasted in your life, where you had to process through some dark places.
Yeah, that was
You
post 18. So
Okay, got you.
and
So
and
so
and that was more internal, like
all of
being
it's internal.
provided for so well. You're like the hamster, just life is being fed to you easy. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to work. I didn't have to work in high school. I got to spend all my time on sports, focusing on friends and things that I wanted to do. So my home and upbringing was incredible. But it was like, okay, when I graduated college, it's like, okay, here's the real world. Like,
Yeah.
what do you have to show? Like, where I had
You
no
were an
work
outlier.
experience. Yeah, I was definitely an outlier. So everyone's journey is different. Everyone has different hardships. Everyone has to
Right.
face different
Right.
things. But it's a matter of identifying what your obstacles are and then not letting them stop you, right? And that was what I took away is there was so many people standing in the room, but that room was full of winners, right? That
100%.
room was full of people like chasing the storm, going right headfirst into their junk, into the pitfalls of their life, the burials or the deathbeds, the coffins of their life, and cleaning them out, saying
They were
no, this
not
is not going to
afraid.
stop me. Exactly.
They were not afraid to address fear. They were not afraid to address what they bring to the table, even if it meant that they would fail forward. They took on that challenge. They took it on, and they allowed it to be a fuel. They allowed it to be a reason, a psychological trigger to compel them to act quickly and to compel them to act with discipline and to compel them to act with such a push to a
Hmm.
higher value and a higher level where it superseded every level of poverty, emotionally, spiritually, and whatever, and every scarce and rare place of understanding in their lives. They were compelled and driven by passion, so
Hmm.
critical in their understanding that they didn't allow fear to have a repulsive place. They didn't allow fear to have a polarizing, stopping place. They didn't allow fear to have anything to do with their success other than to become a motivator. The stronger the fear pressed on them and presses on them, because they're not without fear, they push harder, they
Hmm.
drive harder, they focus, and they get more of that relentlessness. And then they start to look back over the journaling of their lives and they say, I'm already unleashed.
Hmm.
I'm already capable. The devil gave me his greatest blows. He's beat me with his more powerful scarring. And I'm up and I'm still in the fight. And I may not be the billionaire right now, but the billionaire doesn't define me. The journey that I'm on defines me. Because if I never cross a billion as an owner, it doesn't define me. It's something that I want. But the process and the unleashing, the freedom of my thinking, the freedom of my resolve, my ability to impact other people's lives and to make a difference, to be an agent of impact has greater value than the money itself. Because even in your own testimony, the money was one thing, but the money didn't make you. What made you was after you hit this particular age of reasoning. And then you said, what now? And then you started your right now. And so right now, we're all in a right now. Some of us that are watching right now and some that are going to be watching later on, you're in a right now moment. And in
Hmm.
that right now moment, there's some place of discovery. There's some place of reach. There's some place of depth that you got to undig. You got to dig up some stuff. And you might need some help through some prayer. You might need some help by just listening to this again and saying, yeah, that's it. And when you come to that place of that's it, then you're gonna get to your right now and say, I don't want this anymore. And you get to write down what it is. What I saw when I was 2 years old, I don't want it anymore. When a coach tried to touch me inappropriately, I don't want that anymore. When
Right.
when my science teacher grabbed me by the neck and started choking me and punching me in my arm, I said, I don't want that anymore. When I saw bullies bullying my friends and beating up on them, and I said, "No, I'm gonna learn how to fight so I can deal with the bully." And I started dealing with the bullies because I didn't want that anymore. And so now, when I come to this age of reason, there's some bullies in my life. There might be some bullies in my emotions. There might be some bullies in my persistence. There might
Hmm.
be some bullies in my proper activity to get me where I need to go. There could be a whole lot of bullies, but right now I'm saying to these bullies, I'm on deck. And it's time for this thing right here to end because I have something I need to accomplish. The Spirit of the Lord has put in me, make no small plans for me. Be an agent of impact. Build me a nation, one person, one family at a time. So I can't allow for small things. I can't allow for fearful things that are just notions and suggestions to stop me from doing what has to be done. And doing what has to be done, listen, people, it's not about how much more thought you have to give to something. It's called procrastination. It's about doing something right now. It's making up your mind and getting it done. Listen, can I tell you this? Can I get you to get raw for a second? We can figure out, read a 50. Look, I'll let you see my library. 50 billion books. Doesn't matter. It's information until you get to a place of right now and it becomes activation. When you take the core values that you have learned, the core principles that you're going to invoke, and you do something about it. Otherwise, what greater hypocrisy could there be than you to have read all the greats, till you have met all the greats and all the wealthies, and you have done nothing in your life?
Yeah. And just to hit on that, there was another speaker that spoke at the event, and one of his phrases, I wrote it down because it hits so deep, is education without action is void. It's nothing.
Void.
It's
Foolishness.
like it's a hobby. It's just something that, took up breath and took up time but carried no action, no effect, had no result. And I just don't think that we're here really to, if we want to make an impact, want to unhinge, untap, unwind, that though we have to find the things that fuel us. Like, where are we going? Where is our focus? What are our passions? And then make a business out of it, because you're not the only one that's passionate about that. And there's someone else that's thinking about starting that health and wellness business that you've been thinking about for 2-3 years and haven't even taken a step to even create an LLC or anything like that. It takes like 2 weeks to set up an LLC, and you fill out a form.
For we are not here to play, dream, or drift. For we have much work to do and loads to lift. Shun not the struggle, for it is God's gift. Be strong. That's something I learned when I was pledging a fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And that changed my life in so many different ways. Be strong. Be strong, for we are not here to play, dream, or drift. For we have much work to do and loads to lift. Shun not the struggle, for it is God's gift. Be strong. So that came from another place, but it was something that we learned online, so that in the most difficult presses of life, you realize 2 words: be strong. And you realize the essence of those words. For we're not here to play, dream, or drift. We got stuff to do. And then and when you start doing and you start getting things done, it's not till you write your bio and you start looking back over some of the things that God privileged you to accomplish and the lives that you were able to impact by the thousands, possibly by the millions, that you realize that in your be strong right now moment, you started doing something. See, it's about doing. It's about getting her done. I like the way so many people sound this way or that way, but what have you done? Define, what is the definiteness of purpose for your life? Do you have a definiteness of purpose for your life? Definiteness of purpose is starting a point for all achievements. Where is that? Did you write that down? Did you have that somewhere? Do you have that somewhere? Write it down right now. You got to have definiteness of purpose. What about your create vision? Have you created your vision? Have you created your vision? It's more than a vision board. It's writing it down. It's what are you going to do when you go the extra mile?
The people that achieve this, they talk about it frequently. They write it down. They remind you, because you can kind of just lose focus, right? If you're not constantly placing, your goals, your dreams, your desires on paper or in front of you, telling them to yourself, like, this is very biblical. It's like, hang this around your neck, like tie it on your doorstep, like put it on your wall, talk about it at dinner. Like, if you're not having these conversations, and then if you're not having these questions or these conversations rather, then you're either around wrong people or you're just not promoting it. Because a lot of if you ask anyone, they're like, yeah, I want to make money. Yeah, I want to have another side hustle. Yeah, I'd like to be in a better financial position. If we talk, you just mentioned being a billionaire. I think most people would love just to not have debt, and they just, they're in that grave of being stuck in the hole and just kind of doing the same thing, and they're it's such a combination of different things that are keeping them there. But ultimately we have the decision and the power to make things happen, and we have to stay focused by writing these things down, putting them
Accurate.
on our wall, and attaining the skills that we need to get there, because that's the reason why we're not there, is we don't have them.
Let me say this. Napoleon Hill has 17 principles of success. One of them is accurate thinking. Accurate thought involves two fundamentals. First, you must separate facts from mere information. Second, you must separate facts into two classes, the important and unimportant. Only by doing so can you think accurately. This is where you start to develop your truth about who you are, what you are, where you're going, and the impact statements you're going to make on this generation, on the generation to come. And so you've got to make up in your mind that determination. And then you got to focus on the stuff that's going to make this happen, or you're going to perish. Because I got to tell you something about being a dreamer. I remember my mom used to talk about people that were dreamers and say they would just talk about this and talk about that and talk about this and talk about that, but they would never do anything about it. That's a dreamer. And so what was also a connotation about that type of life is that they were oftentimes frustrated by so many other things because they got very little of anything done. And they might start 15,000 different businesses, but they never finish one. They might get involved in 10,000 different people's lives, but they never finished it, going the extra mile till they saw that person raise up and start doing something amazing with their life. And so I started to listen. I was listening to mommy, and I was like, man, that's it. People got to get unlocked. This is where some of this unhinged, unleashed. It didn't all come from her. God put it in my spirit, man. Savage will. You got your will to win has got to be so savage. You have to be so made up in your mind that when the greatest blow to your life comes, a blow that can completely redefine who you are, you have determined so deeply, it is your mantra, it is who you are, that this won't stop me. I got rear-ended by 18-wheeler, and it messed my brain up. I lost short, medium, and long-term memory. I got rear-ended on a Friday. Monday, I was supposed to go in to become a vice president for this company. I was a host for TBN Broadcasting, Turner Broadcasting Network, not Turner, but Trinity Broadcasting Network. And everything was going on. I just finished planting some churches over in Costa Rica. I just finished organizing some churches in Africa. Things were blowing up. And all of a sudden, this car, our ministry is blowing up where we are right now. And all of a sudden, this truck came and boom, crushed me. Changed my entire life. And I had moments where I could cry and could give up, and I did. I did cry, I never gave up. I had moments where I could ask God why and want to blame God, but I never blamed him. I did ask why. And I got to tell you something, that sometimes when you're going through the test, the teacher won't give you the answer right away. He trusts and she trusts that you have learned enough to find the answer and to score right. And so in this time of recovery, there were some times it was very quiet and God didn't speak to me, but I've heard the Lord all my life. And when he didn't speak to me, I was like, I don't want this life. I don't want to be here. I'm giving you my testimony. This is my resolve, my right now. Mm-hmm. And so one moment I cried out so much. My wife heard it, and she told it to a coworker on her job. And the coworker on her job says, a pastor of mine met a pastor who went through something similar and had a dry spell for 18 months in his life. My wife came home and she told me about this situation in this pastor. I said, I can't wait 18 months to hear from God again. Somebody else might. If I don't hear from him, there's no sense in me being here. My right now. You don't get it. I said my right now. And so the lady gave a CD that this man happened to be passing by, gave the CD to the pastor. The pastor gave the CD to this woman. They're interceding for me, praying for me. I'm always interceding and praying for other people. But God, I needed God right now. And it had to come a different way. And it came a different way. And the way it came, I got that CD in. We put the CD in. And I listened to this man. And when he gave his testimony about 18 months not hearing from God and having to rely on everything he had learned and had to be disciplined and persistent about everything he was doing, then I said, here's what I do know. God, you're not talking to me right now, but I preached your word. I meditated on your study. And this is all I really do know. Everything else is peripheral stuff. But this is what I do know. And so I went to what I did know. Next thing I know, I'm looking up in my brain, my memory's coming back. I'm looking up and things, activities starting to happen. I'm starting to readjust my life by the grace of God. Then he's starting to speak to me again. But I had to make an action. First, my tears watered my right now. Because if I didn't ever cry out, I would have never had my right now. All I would have been doing was commiserating and thinking about all the loss that I had. And I said, no, I got to get up. God, I got to hear you. And I made up a right now moment. And I press on that right now moment every day. So right now in my life, the purpose behind this whole podcast is somebody's been stuck. Somebody's been hurt. Somebody had to go through a surgery or 2 or 3 or 20. Somebody's lost millions, billions. Someone's lost ministries. Someone's not getting up to do what they're supposed to do. But I'm here to tell you right now is the time for you to make that decision to get up and to stop making excuses right now. You think you had some things go bad? Wait till you lose everything. And I almost lost my wife, almost lost my children because my mom was messed up because I didn't have any memory. I didn't even know who they were for about 2.5 weeks. 2.5 months, my wife said, I thought it was 2.5 weeks. But I had a right now moment because all I could remember was and knew was God. I don't know what your God is. I don't know what's going to drive you to right now. But at the point you allow for the psychological, spiritual trigger to bust your scarcity up, bust up your anxiety, bust up all the anxiety and fears that you purchased all your life, until you come to that right now moment where you're no longer going to purchase any of that and waste any more of your time and your money and your emotions on that, you're going to stay stuck. But right now, we're having this conversation because I'm here to tell you right now, prophetically, predictably, if you apply yourself right now with a little bit of spiritual muscle you have, with a little bit of faith that you have left, you're getting out.
Yeah, and I think one thought that kind of keeps me up at night, or when I find myself frustrated that I'm not on track, not on schedule. I was doing good, now I'm not. Why do I get back on the horse? Is there are plenty of people out there with twice the obstacles, 3 times, 4 times the obstacles, and half the brain power doing
Yes.
much, much more than what I am. And I'm like, okay, so what's my excuse? Like, where? And you don't say that to beat yourself up. It's like, how do we get going? Let's
Yeah.
get the motor going. Let's go. Let's go out there and make it right now. Like, and the next conversation I have, I'm talking about my goals, with someone who can help me get there. And it's not just to talk, but it's like, okay, who can I recruit? Who can I reach out to? Who can I have, in my circle who can teach
Your
me the way?
mastermind alliance.
Right. And then you just start getting resources and tools and path and things in your path. And you start refining your skills and you start learning how to express your ideas. That was one thing for me that it took a long time to even just, I didn't have a lot of confidence in just even introducing myself to other people. Right. I didn't know who I was, what my mission, my goals, my values. I didn't know how to, like, I knew what they were, but I never was able to express them, and then that's that period of time of the 18 to 21, trying to figure out, okay, I graduated from college. Where am I at? What am I doing? What do I value? I kind of changed my route. What I was studying in college was what I thought would look cool. It didn't necessarily pertain to what, you know, I wanted to value and pursue. And then, medical school was the thing that I thought that was. And then, I realized, oh, whoa, I'm actually not super fired up about medical school and being a doctor and seeing sick people all day, you know. Um, and I just knew there was something else. And then I hit this wall in life and I was like, okay, what now? Like, where do I go? And I sat there for a long time before I felt comfortable in who I am. I knew the lack of confidence was a lack of, results, and was a lack of, was stemming from a lack of pursuing my passions and living out my purpose. And I was just unhappy. And bled into my relationships, my lack of relationships, how I treated my body, what I put in it, and then it just you can either spiral downward or you can spiral upward. And if you're constantly looking for the right things, you can spiral upward. If you're constantly doing the right work, if you're rarely does someone do all the right things, talk to all the right people, have the right motives, and not get what they're going for, right? And you have to keep going. It is a process. It takes a long time, but the alternative, what's the consequence of you not becoming obsessed and pursuing your goals? And that's another question. Yeah.
The consequence is the excuse.
Yeah, what's your excuse that's holding you back? And what's the life that you're missing out on if you don't pursue this path? Like, and you have to write these goals down because things are going to get hard, and this is what you're going to look back on and be like, no, it's worth it. It's worth not sleeping an extra couple hours.
Right on.
It's worth waking up at 5 a.m. I don't love it, but I'm going to do it anyways. Right?
Right.
And you have to feel worthy of what you're receiving. You know, no one's going to outwork their self or out receive their self-image.
Right.
You have to feel worthy. And in my opinion, the only way to do that is to do everything you can to be competent, to be, gain the skills that you need to provide the value that's required for you to get the results that are truly worthy. Right. And I think there's a lot of spiritual ties into that and the psychology of belief. And, if you don't believe that you're worthy, that's an issue. You're not going to get it. You won't receive more than you feel like you do.
As a man thinketh in his heart. Right.
Yeah.
So it's some core principles here in this right now discovery and application for your life. Right now, my core principles and values are marriage and my family, ministry, and building sustainable communities for people. And those sustainable communities have some basic components on the inside of them. And I'm going to get those things done. And then finding the resources and the resources finding me in order to get all this work right here that I just mentioned to you done. Those are my 5 core principles to carry me out of this life and to leave a legacy to my children. You understand? And to leave a legacy and an imprint on other people's lives. I don't move off of those principles. I have them in that order because God is number 1. And my marriage, and then my family, and then ministry, and then the sustainable communities with the resources to get it done. So watch this. So you got to take a right now action step. First, define what your core principles are. What are those core principles and values that drive and motivate you, and put them in order. That's number 1. Put it in order. Listen, it doesn't require anybody affirming you. You affirm you by putting those things in order. Write them down, right? And then after you write them things down, then you gotta set aside what you consider to be accurate thinking. And when you start to get into accurate thinking, that's where you might have to read about this or read about that and see how other people have accomplished what they've accomplished. Not for you to do what they're doing, but for you to see how they think. So there's an accurate way of thinking. And then you have to have controlled attention. Controlled attention. You're listening to us right now, but every time you thought about looking at TikTok and every time you thought about looking at Instagram or something else, and to get yourself distracted off of the main point of right now, that's where you control your attention. You got to control your attention. And then you got to have some enthusiasm. Man, you got to get fired up. So some people say, man, you speak with such passion. I'm fired up, dude. I've almost died a couple times in my life. I'm happy every moment to be alive, and I'm going to spread positivity everywhere I go, everywhere I've been in my life. Some comments, the comments that come out, this guy's enthusiastic, this guy's passionate, this guy's positive. That's my life, man, because I could have lost my life multiple times, and then you got to go the extra mile. Listen, how bad do you want what you say you want? Go the extra mile. Prove it to yourself. Apply it for yourself. And then once you've done all of that, build that positive mental attitude around it. You know, I rely on the scriptures. I can do all things, and nothing shall be impossible. Those that believe, have faith in God. You know what I mean? I use those as the positive words to really drive me, and then I have my own I am affirmations because I've come to realize that I am means I am in an action. I am more than a conqueror. I am Savage Will. I am a billionaire. That means I'm taking the actions to do the things that I need to do to accomplish the principles that I write about my life, that I rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. I've gotten, when I die, I told my wife, I got a couple of friends in the earth realm. I'm finishing the book right now, but I got a couple of friends in the earth realm. I told my wife, when I die, if such and such and such and such are still alive, give them all my notes and tell them to organize these notes. They're going to be volumes of books that's going to bless you guys with resources for the rest of your lives. Give them a piece because they're going to organize it. And I said, I promise to get out 5 or 6 of these books before I'm dead so that there's a legacy left. Because I'm writing all the wisdom that I'm learning from other people and how it's applied to my life. But that's my why. Mm-hmm. That's my right now. I'm only giving you a testimony. I'm not the example. I'm giving you a testimony of an example. You understand? What's your right now? What will you do? How will you address it? You've now got some tools. You've got a roadmap. There's a million billion books written by so many different people. Find one, find two. Look up Emily Ford. George has already said it. Look up the ACE period, questions. He's already given it to us. What else do you need? Courage. And having done all, stand.
Yeah, no one person is going to provide all the resources and material for you to get to where you need to be, but you need to be aware that, hey, I'm going to pick up this test and I'm going to use it to help me, and I'm going to read this book, and maybe I don't agree with all of it, but hey, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so much of this society we live in is you like him or not. As well, no. Well, 90% he says I agree with, 10% I don't know. He has different experiences, but I'm going to take what I can, learn it. Can I use this? If yes, I'm going to use it. And education without action is void. So you have to have that mentality of right now, what does this information do for me? And how can I apply it in my life? And that it all stems from prioritizing your time. Time is limited. There's no such thing as free time. I don't know who told you that, but this is what we tell everyone. I've said it before. But I don't know where that lie came from, that time is free or we have such thing as free time. You know, just because you value your time less on the weekends doesn't mean it's free, right? There's no such thing as free in the world, you know? So we don't live in a vacuum. Actions have consequences, whether they're good or bad. So the time is now. The time is to act. The time is to pursue that skill. The time is to make time for it. The time is to make time for what matters most. So we're getting towards the end here. Robbie, you have any closing thoughts?
Applied faith right now. Hey, guys, when you take some of these little pointers and you apply them, and by simply taking an action step, and I got to tell you, the essence of courage is action. All right. As soon as you pull up a piece of paper, as soon as you write down the notes or whatever, even while George was speaking, there's some notes that I took down while he was speaking. So when I'm looking down, I'm actually taking notes because I believe that these are additives to where I'm going, what I'm actualizing in, and it was something about what was said that I took a note on. I've given you some things that you could have taken some notes on. If you've forgotten them already, listen to this broadcast again. If you know some people that are stuck, share this broadcast out with them. It could be that although I was very passionate about what happened in my life on 2 different testimonies, it could be that somebody needs to hear that. So don't you be the judge. Pass it on because they might hear it and it might unlock them. This is what Savage Will is all about. We got to get unleashed. You understand? And you've got to find that you do matter. And you've got to realize that when I put principles into play, I can, in fact, accomplish them. Listen, if I never make $1 billion, my journey is past $1 billion. If I never get a chance to physically go to the moon or to Mars. My journey helped me exceed that and see the galaxies that have been created through the sciences and everything else that I get a chance to look into, and the impact I'm able to provide to other people's lives. And so I make no excuses for not getting to any of these places. And I haven't yet arrived to any of them, but I'm on my way. But here's what I do know: I'm on my way. And I have
Hmm.
courage right now to go ahead and pursue it all with great joy, with great conviction, with great passion, with great drive. So much so, I've got decisions that I'm making right now in my life because I have to get further along. And the course that I've been on has served me well for right now, but I've got to go up higher and I've got to go in deeper. And so you too have that option. Make a decision, have some courage, have some faith. But today, do it right now.
Hmm.
Don't wait till an hour from now. Don't wait till after you've eaten. Don't wait for a perfect moment. Pull out the paper and pen. Pull out your phone and don't look at uh, TikTok or anything else, and just start typing out what those principles are. And it may not be five for you. It may be one or two. That's enough. Starting point. Courage. We stand in
Hmm.
agreement with the success on this. George, take us home.
Right. Yeah, another great episode. Lots more to say, but we're going to go ahead and cut it off. If you're listening to us, please like, subscribe, share. We really trying to grow this thing, really trying to make moves here. If you value this information, show us that you value it. So share it with 3 friends, like, comment, subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on Instagram as well at SavageWill1111. So Robbie, we're going to go ahead and cut it today. And guys, you have the ability to go out and make it happen. You just got to take action and make it right now. Why not? What do you have to lose?
Savage Will, we out.
Savage was out.